Hi, I'm Nichola.
Hi, I'm Hugh.
And we are
MKH.
Okay, today let's talk about raising a child in Korea. So we only have like a year and a half's worth experience of this. Like our son is 20 months at the moment, but there's still things that we can talk about, right?
So many things. So raising kids is really difficult. I know it's really hard time. So tiring all the time. But there are so many good things raising your kids because like it's like your energy. Like when you see they're smiling, they do something new, and it makes you feel a lot better. Like
even though you're so tired, and they do something really cute, and you're like, oh, it's so worth it.
yeah, like sometimes I was so tired and too many meetings and just came home and was so exhausted. And he just came to me and smiling and give me a hug and he tapped me like this and makes me
makes it better. When people are raising their child in a country that's not theirs, so of course like Korea is your home, but I'm Australian, so Korea is my second home. And I think there can be a lot of anxiety as a parent and you worry about a lot of things, and sometimes people focus a lot on the negative things in a country. But today we wanted to talk about a lot of the positive things in Korea for raising a child. So here are 5 great things about raising kids in Korea.
This is our experience. So maybe someone else has different things, but this is our experience and we want to share it with you guys.
Yeah. Okay, so number 1 is the medical access and costs. So Korea has kind of a system where there's national health insurance, like there's national health cover, and then there's personal insurance.
Yes.
So it's not the extreme either way. And for us, that has really worked out. Like we have insurance for our son and it's not too much, but then national health care cover covers a lot of things as well.
Most of them.
Yeah, and also because our son was premature, the government covers the majority of his medical costs until he's, how old?
He's 5.
Until he's 5.
But still like because he was premature, he will pay less than others. Yeah, but still after 5, still get lots of like
benefits.
Yeah.
For us, even though he was in hospital for a month when he was born, and he's had some minor surgeries done, and we go to the doctor all the time because it's so convenient to do that. Like it doesn't cost us a lot of money to do that. Sometimes we go to the doctor and they're like, that's 80 cents or whatever the equivalent is in Korean, right?
Yeah, 80 cents, $3 or something, like really cheap. So every time I take him to the doctor, and then how much is it? $1?
Yeah.
Okay. I use card.
You use the card still because Korea is a very cashless society. But that has been great for us. And as an Australian, we have Medicare, which is like the national health care, which is great. But sometimes it can be difficult to get into a doctor. There's often a lot of waiting in Australia to get into a doctor. But in Korea, there's so many doctors everywhere that you can just go in.
Yeah, if you just call and then if they all booked, okay, with
another
one. And Korea is quite small country, so you can go anywhere.
It's walking distance. Like for us where we live in Seoul, there's multiple doctors in walking distance for us. Also, even though Australia has Medicare, it doesn't cover ambulance. So it can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars in Australia if you've got to call an ambulance, where here it doesn't cost you anything, it's free.
Because that's what they're for.
But in Australia, it's still, that service, but they charge you.
That's
because Medicare doesn't cover it, right? So as a Korean, that's weird to you, but in Australia, that's why people try to avoid going in the ambulance.
I mean, I was in an ambulance for 3 times when my mom got injured and you got
pregnancy problems.
Like Medicare in Korea is amazingly great. I think so many American friends, they were quite jealous about this.
I try not to rub it in too much of American friends because it can be so devastating for American families. So I do try to be sympathetic about them, but I hope people can see that there's lots of ways that a country can be better when it comes to medical costs.
There's so much things to talk about, but maybe that's one and go to next one.
Okay, so number 2 is free or very cheap daycare in Korea.
Yes.
This is a savior for us.
It's amazingly great.
Because we both work, and I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's fine for people that want to choose that, but, you know, I've always wanted to work myself, and I have a lot of things that I want to do. So for us, it is really great that you can go to daycare. And daycares are either free or they're very cheap. So the government gives us about $400 a month, but when Yule starts going to daycare, that money just goes straight to the daycare. So we don't pay anything out of pocket.
Yeah. Before it was $200 we got paid, but the daycare fee is $400 a month, and then it covers from the...
So we don't pay anything to the daycare. Some daycares there is, but it is nothing like the fees in Australia. Like in Australia, we would have a real problem. I think I'd just probably have to give up all my work. Or I work and all my money just goes to daycare.
Yeah, I heard that it costs like 15 to 20,000 per year.
Or more.
That's a lot of money, like almost one person's salary, right?
And that's why a lot of Australian mums, they either, even though they don't want to stay home all the time, they have to stay home all the time, or they work and all their money goes to daycare. And there's different types of daycares in Korea as well, so you can. And some areas might have waiting lists, or it might be this type of daycare. But for us, it's one in our local area. It's a very small one. So the ratio of teachers to kids is very great. You know, they've got 3 or 4 teachers and not that many kids there at all. And he loves going, and he loves his friends, and he loves his teachers. And he learns so many things at daycare. Like for me as an Australian woman in Korea, I don't instinctively know a lot of the things that Korean kids get taught. Like they get taught, like, what is it? Guru, jam. There's this things cultural things that I don't know, and he learns those at daycare. And they also were teaching him, you know, make sure he bows and says "안녕하세요."
He does.
He does like his head bob. So it's great for his social skills.
And also they check they do the health check.
A nurse comes and does health checks regularly.
And then they practice, you know, how to do their muscle things, you know, they exercise.
Oh, they do exercise.
I mean, not of course exercise like this, but, you know, small muscles, they push something.
Oh, the nurses check that type thing.
I mean, they do work, you know.
They make them work. That sounds...
It's not working.
I know what you mean. It just sounds funny. So this is something that is just amazing in Korea. But it should be something that most countries have, right?
Yeah.
You know, so please vote for politicians that are considering this. You know, there's going to be a lot more equality for men and women when there is daycare services, good daycare services, not just for-profit ones, good daycare services that genuinely care about children in countries. Like, it's very, very important. Okay, next one is public areas in Korea for children. Korea is very accepting of children, and that children are a part of society, much more than Australia, I feel. So there's a lot of public areas where children are welcome, and children are genuinely welcome in most restaurants and most cafes. There's some hipster ones that have policies. Let's not go into that because they're very few. But in general, people are so lovely to children. And then in Seoul, for example, there's so many parks and areas for kids to play, and they redo them all the time. Like there's a park near us, and it's looking a little bit old, and so they're redoing it. But you know what? If that park was in Australia, they wouldn't do anything for another 15 years, right? The way that park was, like in Korea, we're like, oh, that's looking a little bit old now. Better redo it. In Australia, they'll be like, nah, they'll be right. They'll be right for another 20 years.
And also when you go to Han River, there are so many places that kids can play around.
Yeah.
And like family can go and have a picnic there, and the place, I mean, Korea is a small country, but there are so many places that you can have a fun with your kids.
So many green places as well. And there's been so much I'm not sure what the word is, like refurbishment. Like a lot of industrial areas, they redo into parks and they'll keep some aspects of the old industrial but have these new modern green spaces. And for example, World Cup Park used to be a giant rubbish dump.
Yeah, rubbish dump.
It is beautiful now.
Now there's stream and like it's really, really
trees
pretty.
everywhere, all these different gardens, like it's like a mountain. It's just amazing what Korea does with its public spaces these days.
And also because Korea is small, that's why we need to think, we need to be more creative about these
think
things.
outside the box. Even though we live in a small apartment in Seoul, like we want to move to a bigger apartment, but we are right near the river, like a few minutes away. We're at the river where there's all parks, or we can go to World Cup Park, or we could go to other areas, and there's big greenhouses for children. There's all these areas that are very, very good. And I feel like there's so much more effort put into it in Korea because people's places are so small. So there's more awareness of creating public spaces for people in Korea. So talking about public spaces, there's also places you can go and pay, like Kids Cafe. So, I think a lot of countries have kids cafes and Australia probably does as well, but Korea has some really great kids cafes. And sometimes as a parent, you just want to be like, please just go play. I'm just gonna sit here.
So people go there and then kids can play themselves and then they just do whatever they want inside.
Yeah, some of them are super fancy as well. And there's you can get a meal and drinks as a parent and just sit there. And you can see your kids what they're doing, but they've got so many great toys to play with that you can just rest for a little bit. I always find it funny at kids cafes, there's always a ball pit, right? And often they have the projector with the screen and there's games on there and kids will play a little bit.
Yeah.
And by the end, it's just all the dads aggressively trying to beat the games with the books. You got to throw the ball.
Because we want to prove that we are good.
Also, speaking of public places, when we were at the stream at World Cup Park, and there was another father, and he caught 2 or 3 fish and a shrimp and that, and then suddenly you were you've got to catch something, the dad pressure.
Competition.
The dad competition. He'd caught 3 fish, little tiny fish
because
that.
yours is small now, but when he's bigger, he might say, Daddy,
why didn't you catch one? The other dad did.
I did it too.
Okay, number 5 is that Korea is a very community-orientated society. So often when we talk about Western countries versus Asian countries, we can talk about the individualism in Western countries and then more of the community feeling in Asian countries. And each has pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
So we're not here to talk about what one is better than the other, but in this case, for raising children, there's lots of aspects to Korean society that is very beneficial to you as parents. People are very willing to help you in a lot of ways, in ways that Australians wouldn't. So if we go out to dinner and Yul is just being annoying or
we can't really concentrate.
We can't eat properly because he's bleh.
So we have to eat really fast.
There will always be an ajumma, a middle-aged woman in these places that will do you want me to hold him for a bit while you eat? It is just a normal thing for somebody, even not just ajumma, even sometimes younger women as well would be would you like me to hold him so you can eat? And in Australia that just wouldn't happen that much unless you really knew the place. But in Korea there is a natural inclination for people to want to help you because children are valued and children are an important part of society. Sometimes it can go the other way where you're I don't need help, it's okay. Or people are oh, your child must be cold, put a jacket on them. They're helping, but sometimes you're please don't tell me what to do as a mother. But in general, I love that people look at Yul and they interact with him and they appreciate him. And especially as Korea's birth rate is declining, children are very loved and valued in Korean society. So talking about that, what's your experiences when you go out with Yul and I'm not with you, sort of interactions with people?
So many people just look at me and because I'm just dad with a baby. But these days there are so many kids with their daddies as well. So when I went to the playground, not always like mothers with them.
There's a lot of dads.
Lots of dads with them, and this is thing that like so many people said. Like lots of my Korean friends said, Korea is really hard for raising kids, but actually no. Like there's so many benefits.
Yeah.
You know, if you compare about other countries, definitely Korea is not the worst country for raising kids. So when my friends ask me like, why are you living in Korea? You can live in Australia because Australia is a better country and then have better things. Yeah, but like, you know, you can't get these kind of the benefits
or
in
the
Australia.
Convenience like this. So this is what like we try to explain to people. Okay, if we want to live in Sydney, the average house price, like to buy a house in Sydney, is $1 million, and then renting is astronomical prices, like 5 times what we pay in Seoul for our apartment at the moment. Or we can live in the countryside, like with my parents, and be like 5 hours drive from Sydney, and then it's, you know, we don't have a lot of the benefits that you would have in Sydney. And so yes, Australia has these wonderful things. It's got wonderful, you know, nature and this and that, but the cost of living is very high. Housing and that is very high. Daycare prices are very, very high. So our quality of life wouldn't be the same quality that it is here in Korea.
So I'm really satisfied that all this benefit that I can get as a parent in Korea. So we want to just make this kind of video to prove that it's okay to live in Korea with your kids. It's not the worst country. So I mean, if people don't make this kind of video, people don't know that there are so many benefits, right? Also,
a lot of people, multicultural families like us, don't know that there's a lot of benefits for them. And the government does do a lot of benefits. So if you are an international family like us and one of you is Korean, look up things because there's a lot of benefits that you can get, and things for daycare, you'll be bumped up the list.
Yeah, and then if you don't know anything, you have no idea, just go to the community center in your town.
Yeah, multicultural.
Yeah, and then ask them what they can do, and then you can, if you just at home you just type on neighbor, you can find all the information. That's how I find the information as well.
Korea is doing a lot of things for multicultural families like us, and there's a lot of benefits that we can get because of course there's a lot of things that can be hard about being a multicultural family, but the government is doing a lot of stuff for families like us. So make sure you check what is available to you in the area.
Yeah, and then like there's so many things I can add on here, and you can rent some type of toys, and you can support from the community center.
Yeah.
Some rice and some nappies or whatever.
There's arjumas that can come and support you when you're a new mother as well.
Every month you get paid like
from the government.
Like $100 for baby food and then nappies. So all these things are included. And then when you have a baby in Korea, it depends on the city, but some city they pay you.
The more rural area you are, the bigger handout.
My hometown, if you have one child and it's $1,000, and then 2 for $5,000, and 3 for $10,000.
They really need the birth rate to go up.
Yeah, because in my hometown, they're all harmony, halabajis, like old people.
Old people.
That's why they need newborn babies. So there are so many benefits that we didn't even mention.
Yeah. Something that I know that there's going to be people commenting, and the first thing they're going to say is like, but the education system in Korea is so hard on children, it's so blah, blah, blah. Yes, it is. But people are aware of it, and the government is aware of it. And it probably will happen slowly, but the steps are being taken to make sure it's not so stressful on children. And that's one thing that is a negative in Korea, but a lot of that pressure comes from parents themselves. There is a culture of parents putting stress on their kids. So do what's best for your family.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about those things when you is older and we experience more of that.
Yeah, and I think also we can talk about what is bad things about
Yeah, but this
raising
I just
kids,
wanted
but
to.
this one is a good thing.
I just wanted to mention that because I know immediately there's going to be people commenting
Yeah.
on that. And it's like, yes, that is a valid point and something to talk about, but this video, this is what we're talking about.
Yes.
So we'll let you go loose with that. Like, we'll let you, you know, talk about that in another time. All right, thank you for watching our video. If you were not subscribed to us, please subscribe and hit the bell icon, notification, so you get notifications, and follow
Or the social media.
and we will see you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.